you ever jumped up off the sofa and cheered like a little kid while watching Little Giants, then you had a better childhood than this generation has now. In 1994, this movie was not just a family film about kids' football. It was a very American slice of childhood about kids nobody took seriously. And that is also why so many people hoped the cast of this movie would grow up into lives as good as the movie itself. But real life turned out to be a whole lot crueler. One person lost a spouse way too early and stepped all the way back from Hollywood to raise children. One person dove into drinking and wrecked his own career. And one child faceleft show business while still way too young, then passed away at 33. So what really happened to those faces after 32 years? Let's look back at them right now. And make sure you stay till the end of the video because I've also saved 5 of the weirdest and most shocking facts about this movie itself for the hardcore fans. Number 1, Rick Moranis as Danny O'Shea. Let's start with the first name and actor we've all gone too long without. Rick Moranis' full name Frederick Allen. Moranis was born on April 18, 1953 in Toronto, Canada. The year Little Giants came out, he was 41. This year he is 73. In the movie, he played Danny O'Shea, a lead role. Just that alone is enough to bring the memories back because by 1994, Moranis was already way too familiar to American audiences thanks to Ghostbusters, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, Spaceballs, and the Flintstones. But the thing that made Rick Moranis so memorable was not just on screen. The biggest turning point of his life came in 1991 when his wife, costume designer Ann Belsky, died of breast cancer, leaving him with 2 young children. After that shock, Moranis slowly stepped away from Hollywood to stay home and raise them. And honestly, I've always really respected him for that. Walking away from the spotlight while you are still in a place other people dream about choosing to be a father first and a star second, that is a very manly decision and not an easy one either. Moranis himself later said very clearly that he has no regrets about that break. Then in 2020, life hit him with another shock. Rick Moranis was randomly attacked on a street in New York while walking near Central Park. Police later caught the suspect, but the part that really chills people is that the victim here was somebody who had lived quietly and stayed away from almost all noise for years. That same year, Moranis surprisingly showed up in a Mint Mobile ad with Ryan Reynolds, where he was introduced with the exact opening line we just mentioned. That was only the first sign. By 2025, he was confirmed to return to live action with Spaceballs 2, a movie expected to hit theaters in 2027, marking his first major live-action role since 1997. For audiences, this is not just a comeback. It feels more like a face from old America finally coming back to where he belongs. If Rick Moranis was the main adult pillar and one of the leads of the movie, then the next name is the most standout child face in the main lineup, Devon Sawa as Junior Floyd. Number 2, Devon Sawa as Junior Floyd. If Rick Moranis was the adult pillar of Little Giants, then Devon Sawa was the main child face audiences remember right away when they look back at this movie. Devon Edward Sawa was born on September 7, 1978 in Vancouver, Canada. That year he was 16. This year he is 48. In the movie, he played Junior Floyd, a lead role on the kids' side. And you know what? What Devon was actually brought in to replace the original Junior Floyd after the movie had already been filming for about 1 month. And he himself said that in the first few weeks on set, the other kids did not like him much because he was the replacement. But not long after that, that boy took off and became a very familiar face of the 1990s with Casper Now and then Idle Hands' Final Destination and even Eminem's Stan video. Devon became famous, but he also admitted very plainly that the Hollywood spotlight pushed him into a dark, crazy spiral. When Final Destination was about to come out, Devon got pulled into the partying scene in Los Angeles, drinking, staying awake for days, and putting parties above work. He said he lived like that for 4 dark years, and the result was that his career started to wobble. Devon also said he was not invited back for Final Destination 2 because people saw him as a liability. And then his own agent advised him to quit acting and go back to Canada to save himself first. The lowest point came on Christmas Eve in 2006 when he showed up at a family gathering drunk, got slapped by his grandmother, then woke up the next morning and decided he had to start over. That is honestly admirable. A lot of stars get lost in Hollywood glory too, but not everybody gets the chance to wake up the way he did. And thankfully, Devon Sawa really has changed now. People reported that he's been married to Donnie for more than 11 years, has 2 children, Hudson and Scarlett, and keeps his family life pretty private. Later on, Devon had a decent comeback with Chucky, then showed up in Hard Eyes, and by February 2026, Variety also reported that he had joined the Disney series Coven Academy. Hearing all that, you can probably breathe easier, knowing Devon got back up after falling apart, and now it's time to move to a less famous supporting role, Johnny Viper Vennaro, whose real life turned out far more tragic. Number 3, Jon Paul Steuer as Johnny Viper Vennaro. This is probably the saddest name on this whole list. Jon Paul Steuer was born on March 27, 1984 in California. When Little Giants came out, he was 10. In the movie, he played Johnny Viper Vennaro, a child supporting role. But outside Little Giants, Jon Paul was not a forgettable face at all. He had appeared in Star Trek The Next Generation, and then became even better known through Grace Under Fire, which means that by the middle of the 1990s, he was already a kid with a real place on American television. What makes Jon Paul's story so heavy is that he left show business way too early. Jon Paul quit acting when he was just 12, and the most painful part is that it was not because he ran out of roles or talent. He later said himself that after all the controversy around Grace Under Fire when he went to auditions, people did not look at him like a child actor anymore, they just kept digging into old drama with their questions. He said outright that kind of unprofessional behavior made him completely sick of the industry. I've always found that part really sad. A kid who had not even grown up yet got turned away from the profession by the dark side of Hollywood. But this is not a story about somebody who left the screen and disappeared. Jon Paul built himself another life. He moved into music under the name Johnny P. Jules, sang for bands like Soda Pop Kids and PROBLEMS, then moved into the food business and opened the vegan restaurant Harvest at the Bindery in Portland in 2015. Honestly, this is the part that made me happy for him. Leaving Hollywood, changing direction, rebuilding through music and a restaurant of his own, it sounded like he had finally found a quieter place for himself. Then everything stopped. Too soon. Jon Paul died on January 1, 2018 in Portland at the age of 33. When the sad news first came out, the cause was not announced right away. A few months later, American media cited confirmation from authorities saying that his death was caused by his own actions, and some sources said the incident involved a gun. That is the part that makes this story hurt more than the others on the list, because there really was a point when I thought he had made it out. Jon Paul Steuer was not a fallen star in the usual Hollywood way. He was a former child star who got worn out too early by the adult world, then tried to rebuild his life in a different direction. And after a story that ended far too soon, like that the next name went in almost the exact opposite direction. An adult pillar of the movie whose career stayed steady for decades, Ed O'Neill as Kevin O'Shea. Number 4, Ed O'Neill as Kevin O'Shea. Ed O'Neill, full name Edward Leonard O'Neill, was born on April 12, 1946 in Youngstown, Ohio. When Little Giants came out, he was 48. This year he is 80. In the movie, he played Kevin O'Shea. Just saying that is enough, because in 1994, American audiences already knew very well who Ed O'Neill was. By then, he was already Al Bundy from Married with Children. What matters even more is that Ed O'Neill's life did not go in a straight line at all. Before he became an actor, he was chasing football, got signed by the Pittsburgh Steelers, then got cut in training camp. After that, he worked as a social studies teacher, living with the disappointment of a man who had just lost his first dream. And in 2024, O'Neill said that back in the late 1960s, when he was broke in Ohio, somebody he knew once invited him to work for organized crime. He seriously considered it. The person who pulled him back was his father, with one simple question about whether he could handle going to prison or not. Honestly, I like that detail about Ed O'Neill because it shows that some lives look very stable from the outside, but were once standing a whole lot closer to a bad turn than people realize. Ed O'Neill is also not the kind of star with a scandal-filled image. The most notable thing in his public life is actually a regret. In 2024, he looked back at his long-strained relationship with Amanda Bearse and admitted he did not stand up for her and David Garrison during the TV Guide cover issue, then called it something he regretted. As for now, Ed O'Neill's life seems pretty peaceful. He has been married to Catherine Russoff since 1986, has 2 daughters Sophia and Claire, and keeps family life fairly private. After Modern Family, he kept working with Clipped in 2024, then was confirmed to join Ryan Murphy's All's Fair. Christina Applegate also once said Ed was almost the person who raised her on set, and honestly, I believe that. Number 5, Shawna Waldron as Becky Icebox O'Shea. This is one of the faces audiences remember first when Little Giants comes up. Shawna Langle Waldron was born on January 25, 1982 in California. That year, she was 15. This year, she is 44. In the movie, she played Becky Icebox O'Shea. What is worth noting is that Little Giants was actually Shawna's very first on-screen role. After that, she moved ahead pretty fast with The American President, Mr. Headmistress, the television movie A Change of Heart. Then became a regular on the CBS sitcom Ladies' Man. In other words, as a teenager, Shawna once had the kind of trajectory a lot of people thought would send her straight into young Hollywood stardom. But Shawna's life did not go in that explosive, noisy direction people usually imagine for child stars from the 1990s. After those notable roles in her younger years, her career gradually moved onto a quieter path with less commercial shine. She kept acting, showing up in movies like Nightlight's Dead Man Rising and Teacher, but she never stepped into the kind of tabloid spotlight or public rebellion the press loves to chase. And Shawna's life now has followed that same direction. These days, she works in the antiques business and is married to filmmaker Adam Dick. She still has traces of acting in her life, but her present life is clearly very different from what many people once imagined for her after Little Giants. She also picked up a respectable career mark later on when she won Best Actress for Nightlights at the Blue Whiskey Independent Film Festival in 2014. To me, Shawna Waldron is not a sad story, and not a scandal story either. She's a different kind of memory from old Hollywood, somebody who touched an unforgettable role very early, then lived the rest of her life in a much calmer way. But after a name that followed such a quiet path, the next person carried a much heavier, real-life tragedy, Alexa PenaVega as Priscilla O'Shea. Number 6, Alexa PenaVega as Priscilla O'Shea. Alexa PenaVega is a pretty unusual case in Little Giants. Back then, she was just a very little girl in the movie. Later on, she ended up becoming a lot more famous than a whole lot of the other names in the cast. Alexa PenaVega was born on August 27, 1988. That year, she was 6. This year, she is 38. In Little Giants, she played Priscilla O'Shea. Just bringing that up is enough because the part audiences remember more comes from later on when she grew up into a familiar face from Spy Kids and a whole string of family movies on television. But if you look at her personal life, Alexa's story has not been smooth at all. She married producer Sean Koval in 2010, then filed for divorce in 2012 when she was only 23, citing irreconcilable differences. After that, she stepped into a new chapter with Carlos Pena Jr., who later became her husband, and the two of them took the last name PenaVega together. I've always felt early heartbreak, like that says more about a person than a few entertainment headlines ever could. It forces people to grow up faster than they should. For Alexa, that was a very clear turning point before her life moved into a completely different phase. Alexa's heaviest tragedy came much more recently. In April 2024, she and Carlos announced that their daughter Indy was born, but did not survive. By July 2025, Alexa said the hardest part was not just her own grief, but having to go back home and explain it to their other 3 children. What matters is that Alexa did not disappear after that loss. she kept working, made, and produced Love at the Kettle with Carlos for Great American Family in 2024, and she was still making public appearances during the 25th anniversary of Spy Kids at the Texas Film Awards in 2026. Number 7. Sam Horrigan as Spike Hammersmith. Sam Horrigan, full name Samuel Emmett Horrigan, was born in 1981 in Sacramento County, California. That year he was 13. This year he is 45. In the movie, he played Spike Hammersmith, a standout supporting role. After that, Sam kept going pretty steadily from Grace Under Fire to Brink and then a whole bunch of guest roles on television. He did not disappear right after his teen role, but he also did not blow up into an A-list star. Looking back, it was the kind of Hollywood career that feels very familiar enough for people to remember the face, but not enough for the tabloids to tear his personal life apart piece by piece. Because of that, the public side of Sam's private life has stayed much quieter than a lot of the names before him. The heaviest detail major media reported was his marriage falling apart in 2018. Sam filed for divorce from Betty in June that year, and the two of them have 2 children, Blake and Haley. Under the shell of that slick, clever kid on screen was a man who also went through heartbreak. Like so many other people, Sam's life now has a very different color from Spike Hammersmith back in the day. He is the father of 2 children, is engaged to Allegra Ray, still works as an actor, and even teaches Sunday school for kindergarten. That is a pretty wild turn when you put it next to the 1990s bully image audiences still remember. And you know what? One detail I really like is that Sam is still remembered for Brink all these years later. He said he still gets messages from old viewers whenever they rewatch that movie. Which means Sam Horrigan is not a story about falling apart or tragedy. He is the story of a very familiar teen face who quietly stepped into a life far more peaceful than people might have expected. And after a standout supporting role that moved into such a calm direction, the next name is another child supporting role from Little Giant's Joey Simmrin as Sean Murphy. Number 8. Joey Simmrin as Sean Murphy. Joey Simmrin was born in 1981 in Los Angeles County, California. When the movie came out, he was 13. This year, he is 45. In the movie, he played Sean Murphy. After Little Giants, Joey kept going with a few familiar 1990s movies like 9 Months Star Kid and Brink, which means he was not the kind of guy who showed up once and vanished right away. But what makes Joey different from a lot of the other names on this list is that his life did not go in a drama-filled direction. In 2011, Billboard reported that Joey Simmrin joined the collective as a manager. That is a very clear sign that he had started stepping fully away from acting and moving behind the scenes where there is less spotlight, but sometimes a whole lot more decision-making power. To me, that is a really admirable kind of shift. Not everybody who leaves the screen does it because they fell off. Some people just find a different path that feels more real for them. In recent years, that path has become even clearer. Music Connection called Joey the president of MDDN in 2023, and Raw Star noted in October 2024 that Ava Max signed for management with MDDN alongside Joey Simmrin, Benji Madden, Joel Madden, and Jen Tolman Hurst. Along with that, Joey has also been listed as a producer of the podcast Artist Friendly with Joel Madden. Put simply, Sean Murphy did not grow up to become a tabloid name. He became a real industry person behind the scenes in music, and he did it to the point where his name shows up in major artist management deals. That is what I like about Joey Simmrin. He stepped behind the curtain and built a place solid enough that people in the business know his name. And after a face that went from kids' movies into the backstage world of music like that, the next name stayed close to the screen for much longer, Todd Bosley as Jake Berman. Number 9, Todd Bosley as Jake Berman. Todd Bosley was born on July 29, 1984 in Overland Park, Kansas. The movie came out when he was 10. This year, he is 42. In Little Giants, he played Jake Berman, and the more interesting part lies in the years after the movie. Todd did not disappear right after this role. He kept going with Jack, then appeared in familiar titles like Seinfeld Reba, That's So Raven Scrubs House, and iCarly. If you look at his private life, Todd Bosley belongs to that group that has given the press almost no noisy personal story to chase. Not every kid who comes out of Hollywood has to go through a private life explosion. Some people just grow up, keep working, and live a quieter life. That is very much the feeling Todd gives me. The boy who once played Jake Berman did not become a tabloid name, did not become one of those old, sad Hollywood stories either. In February 2024, Todd reunited with Shawna Waldron and Marcus Toji, and together they brought a signed Little Giants DVD to do charity work for Operation Breakthrough in Kansas City. To me, that is the kind of small detail that feels really nice. It shows Todd Bosley is not just remembered because of that movie, but still keeps a real connection to that memory, to his old castmates, and to that part of his own childhood. And after a child face who made it through Hollywood in such a calm way, the last name brings us back to the adult side of the movie, Mary Ellen Trainor as Karen O'Shea. Number 10. Mary Ellen Trainor as Karen O'Shea. Mary Ellen Trainor is the kind of face a lot of people may not say by name right away, but the second they see her, a whole era of old Hollywood comes rushing back. She was born on July 8, 1952 in Chicago. When Little Giants came out that year, she was 42. In the movie, she played Karen O'Shea, an adult supporting role. Just saying that is enough, because by 1994, Mary Ellen Trainor was already a very familiar character actress to American audiences through The Goonies, the Lethal Weapon series, Die Hard, Scrooge, Ghostbusters, To Death Becomes Her, and Forrest Gump. If you look at her private life, maybe the most notable detail is her marriage to director Robert Zemeckis. The two of them were together for about 20 years, had a son named Alexander, then divorced in 2000. She died on May 20th, 2015 at her home in Montecito, California at the age of 62 from complications related to pancreatic cancer. I've always felt sad about faces like Mary Ellen Trainor because they are not the kind of stars people remember through loud headlines, but the kind of actors who build memories through a steady presence from one movie to the next. And after looking back at the 10 most memorable names in the cast, now it's time to come back to the movie itself with a few behind-the-scenes facts that not every audience member back then had heard. Are you ready to dig into them with me? And now we're getting to the part I think the people who stayed this long are going to like the most. If you're still sitting here with me after those 10 cast names, then what comes next is really the part just for you. Not the kind of trivia you read just to say you did, but those backstage little stories that hardcore Little Giants fans usually hear and just laugh and go, wait a second, seriously. The first thing is this movie almost had a completely different feel. Turns out Gary Busey and Randy Quaid were originally being considered for the two central roles. Just imagining that already makes it feel like the movie would have gone in a totally different direction. It still might have been a kids' football movie, still had the brother rivalry, still had the underdog kids getting back up. But the warm, goofy, really lovable quality that Rick Moranis and Ed O'Neill brought into the movie probably would not feel the way we remember it now. Some casting choices look like small details at first, but they actually decide the soul of the whole movie. And here's a detail I really love. Ed O'Neill took the role of Kevin partly because he wanted his two little daughters to have a real family movie they could watch their dad in. That sounds exactly like a 1990s American dad, doesn't it? And honestly, it makes sense. At that point, audiences knew him way too well as Al Bundy, so having a brighter, easier movie for the kids at home and getting to do it with Rick Moranis too, that would have been hard to turn down. To be honest, once I learned that Little Giants felt a little warmer to me. This movie already had that family feeling built into it, right from the casting choices. Then there's a fact I bet a lot of people have never heard. Little Giants actually started from a McDonald's commercial that aired during the Super Bowl. Yep, a commercial. ESPN quoted Bob Shallcross saying that he and Jim Ferguson made a commercial for McDonald's, and then that idea grew into a movie. The NFL was also involved in this story very early on, so if you ever felt like the movie had that strong American football smell, that real fall weekend vibe, that was not an accident. It was already there in the very first seed of the movie. Hearing that, doesn't the film suddenly feel even more American than you remembered? And the last fact is the one that makes people go a little quiet. Harry Fleer, who played Orville, died on October 14, 1994, which was the exact same day Little Giants opened in the United States. Some coincidences just make you sit there in silence for a few seconds after reading them, and this is one of those. It makes me think about this movie a little differently, because sometimes even a warm family movie like this carries some really strange echoes when you look back on it years later. So that's the full long circle we've gone through with the cast of Little Giants. And honestly, this is the kind of movie that feels like time has passed faster and faster the more you look back at it. Some people are still standing strong in the profession, some changed their lives completely, some carried wounds audiences back then never knew about, and some faces only have to show up one more time for a whole piece of youth to suddenly come rushing back intact. Now I want to hear from you. Out of these 10 names today, who surprised you the most and whose face brings Little Giants back the clearest for you? If you watched this movie when you were little, tell that memory in the comments, because I believe a lot of people here are carrying the same American fall in their heart that you are. And let me know which movie you want us to dig into next in the next video. If you like this kind of look back at old Hollywood, don't forget to subscribe to the channel.